Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and this is something we're pretty familiar with on the channel. Last year, we had a go in its big brother, the SL43, the twin-turbo, V8, fire-breathing Halo AMG SL. But what if you don't have almost $200,000 to drop on a ragtop roadster, but you still want to be the baddest looking Larry on the road? Well, Mercedes will happily sell you their SL43. So the question is, does the 43, the little brother, lose any cool features that we saw in the 63 and the 55? Well, today, thanks to our friends at Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee, we're gonna find out. First thing we have to talk about is what this thing is. So the SL for this newest generation is only available as an AMG, believe it or not. In previous years, the SL got the reputation of being kind of a big floppy golf club carrier, but that's not how the SL started its life. So this new gen Mercedes-Benz is dialing up the sporty again with this SL, making it AMG exclusive. And this is the first time actually that we've ever seen this car, and that means an SL43. Of course, last year we did the SL63, and of course there's the slightly less tuned, but still V8 55. But this is the first time that we've seen an SL43. And the main reason for this is the fact that, well, it's expensive. The SL63 and 55 are big money. You know, 63, well optioned out, is approaching $200,000. So this thing starts at, well, just a little bit over half that. And the biggest reason that they can shave so much off the MSRP is because of what we're looking at right here. It's what's under the hood, the engine. This is still a true AMG. All SLs, like we said, are AMGs. They all get hand-built, hand-assembled engines from AMG engineers in Affalterbach. But this engine, of course, is half the size of the other SLs. This is a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder with the turbo, the E-turbo. It's got a mild hybrid system, and of course their E-turbo tech from their F1W, probably 13. This makes about 375 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque, so it's still making a bunch of power through a lot of complication, electricity, and turbo. But then in terms of drive wheels, yeah, the SL43 still gets the same 9-speed transmission like the other SLs, but unlike the other SLs, this only gets rear-wheel drive. The 63 and the 55 get all-wheel drive as standard. They also get rear steer as standard, not here. This does have an effect on the 0 to 60 sprint, but it's still done in just under 4.5 seconds. I believe it's 4.8 is the reported time. So yeah, less engine means less performance, and maybe a little bit less sound. But it also means less money and less fuel. 21 mpg in the city, 27 in the highway. Not bad for how high-strung and how much performance this thing is pumping out here. But there's also less roof. We do have 2+2 configuration, so there's rear seats back here. We'll talk more about this in a minute, but all SLs, of course, come with the soft top, the rag top. There's some interesting stuff going on in here, so let's talk about it. We'll hop in. And then this is where your button is to control your top. You can hit this, you can hold it, and it'll do whatever operation you want it to do. But if you don't want to hold it or hold the button, you can come in and use this slider. You can slide it this way to go up, and the top will whir itself into place. It takes about 15 seconds, so a little bit longer than the Z4 and the M4 that we were just in. But it's kind of cool. I like the slider in this aspect. Of course, it'll ding when it's done. But also look at this. You can activate the automatic display to tilt up or down when the top is open. Of course, that's going to kill the glare. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but I'm going to put it down for now. This thing will actually also operate at speeds up to 34 miles an hour, which is pretty quick. But you know what's really nice to have in a convertible is an all-window control. Now in the M4 that we were just in, we had a toggle at the bottom of the window controls, and you just pull it up to go up and push it down to go down like a normal window switch. This is a little bit different. You select this to go all window, and then you can control all the windows, but only from these rear switches. And they're not automatic up, but they are automatic down. So you hold this after selecting all window, and you can put all the windows up. And you just touch it, and they all go down. Really interesting. And we just touched on this, but for this generation, all SLs are 2+2, which means you get rear seats. And this is very similar to a rear seat that you'd see in like a Lexus LC500 convertible or a Porsche 911 Cabriolet. They're not huge. This is where I sit myself at 6'1". The seat does whir back a little bit while I exit to give me a little bit more space, but there's really not a lot of space back here. But in a pinch, you could put people back here, and more importantly, you could put stuff back here. And I just touched on this, but it bears mentioning again in more detail. This screen itself, nestled in its little piano black home, tilts and moves. Why does it tilt and move? It does it pretty quick actually as well. It does this so that when you have the top down, you can see there's glare on the screen here. I want that to go away. Now it's reflecting on the seat a little bit too much. I can totally play with this to almost limitless customizability to make sure that there's as little glare on the screen as possible, so that when using nav or whatever, I can still use it with the top down. This is far and away the most annoying thing in convertibles, is when I have glare on the screen, I can't see anything. This solves it. Thank you, Mercedes-Benz. Thank you. But then I want to talk about the air scarf. Now, your seats look awesome. They're like red pepper or hot pepper, whatever the interior is called. It looks great. It's like a neon salmon. But since it's convertible, you have an air scarf, which will blow hot air on the back of your neck when you have a cool and crispy fall day like we do here today. This is fantastic. Now the seats themselves, they're heated, they're cooled like normal. They're actually not cooled for this one because of microchips and that sort of thing. And this next thing I want to talk about is right here. Now you can see this little graphic of the car and its butt with the spoiler up. I can hold this and I can retract the spoiler. You can kind of see it in the mirror. I want to show you again. I'm going to push it. It's got different levels that it comes out to. And one of the big things about safety in a convertible has to do with the windshield. You can see it's actually finished in black, the surround here. And this is actually made of steel, reinforced, so that if you were to roll over, this would be strong enough to keep you from getting squished, to keep the windshield from folding in and squishing the passengers inside. But what about rear roll bar? Well, keep this area clear, because rear roll bars will literally explode up out of here and protect you in the event of a rollover. So it's very safe, but without having big things to kind of get in the way of wind or your view when you have the top down. And let's talk about the trunk. Now, this is not the trunk release button like it is in some Mercedes. It's actually under here, but it is powered, which is fantastic. And you see you have a bunch of different buttons in here. This is your escape button. If someone were to have trapped you in the trunk of an SL, you would push this green button to get out. Now, usually there's a handle or some sort of toggle that you pull. This is the first time I've seen a green button on the actual trunk itself, on the tailgate. It is powered, like I said, here, and of course you can fold and lock. But then there's this button, which looks interesting. It's like a floor. This is your active or powered partition, which is this bit here. With it down, of course, the roof can go down. But you push this button. It's not doing it because I have the top down right now, but if the top were up, I could push this button, this would go away, recede up into the trunk itself, and I would have more space to put stuff. Now, the trunk itself is about 7.5 cubic feet. It's not huge, but what did you expect? You're still gonna fit golf clubs in here. You're still gonna fit all the stuff that you would realistically use most of the time. But I like this. This is convenient. The M4 convertible that we were in had a manual partition, and I kept forgetting to put it up or down. So when I wanted to put the top down, I had to go all the way out of the car, come back here, pull it down, and then the roof would go down. And then we're back in the cabin to talk about drive modes. Now, usually right here, there's a drive select button, but since this is an AMG, it has an AMG logo here. Great, we'll push it here. We still have all the stuff that we would normally get. Comfort mode, snow mode. This is gonna help you launch in slippery conditions. You can also use it in the rain, very nice. Individual, how much customizability do you want? Sport, and of course, Sport Plus. You've got active exhaust and all those usual fun things, but this is full AMG, which means you get AMG performance pages, so you can keep track of your suspension, your steering angle. You can keep track of your active engine outputs, torque and horsepower. Really cool. You've got your IWC Schaffhausen clock, which I don't know who's gonna have this up other than to flex that they have a Mercedes, and maybe it's a lap timer? I don't know, whatever. But then of course you can keep track of your fuel economy and things like that, but this is my favorite. I don't know why this gets me every time. But other tech stuff we'll talk about, it's the usual MBUX system, which means it's really good. You've got great graphics, loads of customizability, you've got wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, you've got some of the best 360 cameras in the game. It's a little bubbled out here, but it is fantastic. It's also the spec of the car, black roof, silver car. The wheels are different, but that's about it. It looks fantastic. You've got, of course, parking assistance and all the stuff that you would usually have. And of course, down here, you have your fingerprint reader, so you can actively program with biometrics your driver profile, which is just the coolest thing. Is it super practical? I don't know, but it's just really cool. And then, of course, you've got a fully digital cluster with loads of customizability. We've talked about this to death. You can change it to different views, and you can even get your little eco ball in certain views when you're in eco mode. And before we wrap, I just want to take a minute to appreciate the look here. This is the first time that I've actually cared about the SL, probably ever. Now granted, I'm like 29, so I haven't been around for like the early SLs, but aside from like the original gull wing and stuff, this is the first SL that's come out and I've been like, wow, that's actually super cool. It looks spectacular. Long nose, very aggressive, Panamericana grille with the cat eyes, very sleek, very aggressive looking. I love the fact that it debuted as just V8 AMG. Now this SL43 is a little bit different, but around the side, these are a lower optioned wheel, but I do like the fact that you get extra sidewall. It rides a little bit more comfy, but you can get the same wheels that you get in the V8. That's very nice. AMG painted brake caliper. Of course, our front fender badge, which is typical. Recessed door handles and a nice rear end. We've got very cool kind of floating pixel tail lights, our deployable spoiler that we talked about, and quad chrome tips, one for each cylinder. And the last thing we'll talk about, as it always is the price. Now this SL43 starts at an MSRP of just under $110,000. So it's still a lot of money, but it's a lot less than the V8 versions. So those are the 18 things you need to know about the SL43 AMG. And while a part of me does miss the snorting, fire-breathing V8 experience, this SL43 brings its own kind of unique drama, flair, and excitement with its ragtop, top-down, hair-in-your-wind experience. So thanks again to our friends at Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee for letting us have a go in this SL, and we'll see you in the next one.